Hey guys, it's Adam aka Swimming Bird, and welcome to the newest snapshot for Minecraft 1.11, the Exploration Update. This is 16W39A and B, bringing all those big new features revealed at Minecon, including the extremely rare Woodland Mansion dungeon, looming in the distance, which has 3 new monsters creeping around inside for us to fight, and a bunch of loot. Also, we've got the very useful Shulker boxes and a bunch more to talk about. But let's start things off with the newest tameable animal, the llama. Now these guys spawn naturally in extreme hills and savanna biomes, and they have variable skins depending on where you find them. So first we have the cream-colored coat here, and they each have their own little baby. This is the white coat. Next is brown, which I think is my favorite coat color. And last but not least, the kind of off-white mottled dirty pattern there at the end. But they're all nice, and they have other variations as well. Not just the coat colors, but also you can get different health on your llama depending on which one you happen to tame. Very similar to horses, and they have a strength stat, which determines how much they can carry, and they are very good pack animals. The developers definitely did their research because the llamas in Minecraft share a lot in common with real-world llamas, and I learned a lot as well doing research for this video. Baby llamas and alpacas are called cria, if you wanted to know that. So a baby llama here, if you feed it a hay bale, it makes a very strange sound. A similar sound I can't quite put my finger on, but I feel like I've heard it echoing out of a silent public restroom. Anyways, if you feed a baby llama enough and it doesn't get stuck there we go, it will grow up much faster. You can tell by those little green diamonds. And you can also feed adult llamas, and that will help you tame them faster. Eventually, they will refuse hay bales, though, and they'll start getting angry with you. And that means if you hop on their back, just like with a horse, they should get those hearts. There we go. And once a llama is tame, you'll know there's one little spot there and nothing for a chest. So we're going to have to go into that in a second. There's a lot to how you can customize your llamas, but yeah, they're not too tough to tame, even if you don't use hay bales. If you just jump on one, similar process to a horse, you can just kind of ride it. It will kick you off, but eventually it will love you. And llamas have a very unique attack to them that is also true to real life. So if you try to punch a llama, which you definitely shouldn't do in real life, but if you do, or just the llama's hitting anyway, if a skeleton arrow happens to graze it, it will retaliate with a spit attack. You can see it has nice particles and a projectile that does only a half a heart of damage, and then it'll go back to being passive. It's normally passive walking around, so it doesn't hold a grudge for very long, but it will attack anything that attacks it. And they have a special grudge in their woolly hearts for wolves. Just like in real life, wolves do not like llamas. They're freaked out by them, and they will run away, and it will kind of overwhelm their urge to kill sheep. They won't really go after the sheep. They'll just, that one's already like on the other side of the map. But yeah, they'll run away just like skeletons run from wolves and creepers run from ocelots and cats. So it's a nice little security feature to have a guard llama. And a lot of people in real life, farmers and shepherds and stuff, have a llama that will bond with their sheep and protect them. And if a llama happens to see a sheep, or a wolf, rather, it will try to spit at it and get it to go away, but this wolf is, hightailing it out of here too quickly. If you do happen to kill a llama, I hate to do this, they will drop leather occasionally, and not too often though, so they're not the best use of leather, especially because we cannot breed them yet, which is very unfortunate. So you can't really make these baby llamas, you have to find them in the wild, and they, an alternate source of leather from cows, and horses as well, but they're not really the best source because you can't get little babies very often. So yeah, if there is a wolf in here, it's going to try to attack the sheep, but it'll also try to run from the llama, and the llama will start spitting at it. But you got to be careful. If you have more than one llama, they might get in a spit fight, and they'll start hitting each other and hitting the sheep and hitting my wolf. Oh no, my little tame wolf is going after the llama, and they're going to start spitting him back. So they won't actually attack tame wolves. If you noticed, he wasn't hitting the tame wolf until the tame wolf started the fight by attacking him. So yeah, the llama started the fight. There we go. Now it's just crazy. So yeah, your tame wolves are okay by llama standards. Once this llama dies, then the new one won't spit at my wolf. So you don't have to worry about your pet wolves getting attacked by them unless they get in the line of Spitfire. But anyway, so yeah, they're not the best guards, though, in Minecraft, because the wolf will sometimes work too fast for the llama to start spitting at it. Sometimes they'll ignore it. But, you know, if you don't have a wolf in your pen, you're probably pretty safe, because they will run away. If I put a block here, I bet this wolf will just leave rather than try to kill that last sheep. There we go. And I'm going to take that wolf down so he doesn't go after any of my other sheep and sound effects here. Oh, he's gone. I'll let him go. All right, so yeah, they're kind of a little deterrent there, but they don't do that much damage, so they could probably improve that. But their big use is as a beast of burden. So once you have a llama tamed, you can add 2 different things to it, and there's a lot of variations to customizing your llama. The developers called this swag, but it's basically just tassels and saddles, and I'll go through. There's 64 llamas here, a whole stack of llamas floating in this weird menagerie, but I wanted to show you guys all the different carpet that you can put on a llama's back and have it customized to your liking. So all you do is put a carpet in that little slot once it's tamed, just like you would a saddle, and the llama will wear it, and they all look different depending on the color of wool. Now, in real life, the tassels are used by farmers to identify who owns a llama, whether it's male or female, stuff like that. So you can use these as well in-game to keep your llamas straight. And there is a creeper pattern on the dark green wool, which is really nice looking. But one of the reasons you're going to want to know which llama is which is because they are used to carry items. And you can see the ones down there have chests. And I'll show you why they might be a little bit better than donkeys and mules in that respect, because you can carry a ton of stuff with these guys. So we're about to get to the other. There's 2 that look kind of like mobs or monsters. There's the creeper, and then one up here, the purple, has an Enderman face on the back, but these aren't my favorite. We'll get to that one in just a second. There's one that's very unique that I really like, but all these are pretty cool. And yeah, in real life, the tassels do have a use, so if you do have a bunch of llamas, it might be worth putting the carpet on them, not just to customize them and make them look like a cupcake or whatever you want to do, but because it will keep all of your supplies straight when they are holding them in chests. So if you get a llama, you can put a chest on it, and they do have that strength value. It will vary from 1 to 5, Gesundheit, and the strength value determines how many items they can have in their chest. This is my favorite pattern here. This is the gray carpet, and it gives them a little bandito mask, and they've got a nice little striped carpet on their back as well. And then the light gray also gives them little foot bracelets. So these ones are kind of unique, the 2 shades of gray. But I do like that one the best, giving them the mask. They kind of look like a bandit or a superhero. And then over here we have the fruit stripes gum for the white carpet. So yeah, lots of different variation with your llamas if you just want them to look different. But once they have chests, you can determine what their strength value is. So hop on and pop a chest on them, and then you can see this is a llama with a strength of 1 because it can only hold 3 items. So multiply their strength and that by 3, and that's how many items. So this is 2 strength because it's 6 items. There's 3 strength with 9. You guys see where this is going. This is 4 strength with 12 items, and then last but not least, this little bandit stole all the emeralds. He has 15 with 5 strength. Now, the problem with these guys is that their strength is variable, unlike donkeys and mules, which will automatically hold 15 items no matter what. So they're not quite as useful to hold a bunch of items because you have to find the ones with the better strength values. But their usefulness comes when you put a lead around one of your llamas and start to take them with you, because they will automatically form this caravan. The lead llama will attract one behind it, then that llama, so on and so forth until they have this big conga line train where they'll follow each other. And you can see the usefulness in this. Be careful not to go in the water, because sometimes they will get a little confused and forget who they're following. But you can see how this can be useful, because if you have a horse or something and you're traveling around, you could take a huge caravan of llamas with you and store even more than you could with a single donkey. And they will actually follow you pretty well. Even if you're going pretty quickly, they should stay behind you and keep up. You can see they're kind of lagging behind, but they will catch up eventually as long as you've got this llama with you on the lead. So it's a nice little feature. If you're trying to move like an entire base or something, this is a great way to move a ton of stuff. It just seems like on their own, they're not quite as useful as a horse, which is obviously faster to get around if you're just going on an exploring adventure, or a donkey or mule, which you could just use to carry, one big old chest full of 15 slots worth of loot and things. But yeah, they have their usefulness. I kind of wish that you could direct their attacks a little bit better, and maybe that they would automatically hold 15. They might make donkeys and mules not as good. They're trying to balance these guys. And the big thing that I didn't mention that is very sad about the llamas, though, unfortunately, is that even if you put a carpet on them, you cannot control the llama at all. When you're riding on it, even though it's technically kind of saddled, it's not really. It's controlling itself. He's moving around trying to look at me. So you can't control them other than when you have them on a lead. So you really want a horse to go with you to lead these guys here. That guy's hitting my sound effects, so I got to get rid of him before he knocks all of those off. There we go. But yeah, so sorry, little baby, you're adorable. But yeah, the llamas, I don't know if they're really gonna fill a niche compared to the other animals that we already have. I feel like they need a bit of a buff for them to be truly useful compared to donkeys and things like that. But I love the amount of customization. I wish they would add that for wolves and other animals as well. And I do like all the little features like being able to spit and things like that. But they're just not quite as useful as I would want them to be, I think, to have a lot of players really get into having llamas as pets. So we're going to move on here from these guys as they wander around all over the place. Flower pots, if you right-click them, then you can take whatever's in there out and plop it back in. So very easy to swap stuff out there if you are a fan of decorating with flowers. Shulkers, you might have noticed, are very different now in that they can pop up in a rainbow of colors. They don't actually spawn in all these colors, unfortunately. This was mostly so that the Shulker boxes that we'll get into in a second could have a variety of colors, but they'll still only spawn as the normal purper type of color Shulker. But if you use the color tag, you can spawn them in with all of the rainbow of colors, just like the llama carpets. And they will now drop a new item called a Shulker box. They'll drop 0 to 1 of these little materials here, and or Shulker shell, sorry. You need the Shulker shell to make a Shulker box. So you need 2 of these, and you can put a chest in the center. It has to go in that pattern, but it can go on either side there. But once you have a Shulker box, then you can place it down and open it. It can go on any side here. You can see those are all Shulker boxes upside down there, and they'll open to the side. They're pretty much identical to Shulkers, except for there's no little weird head inside of there, and they are used as a chest. So once you have your Shulker box, you can put something in there. You cannot put another Shulker box inside those, so you can't have infinite Shulker boxes. But once something is in there, when this breaks, it will drop. Even in creative mode, it will drop, and you can see the Shulker shell is in there. If I place it again, it is still there. So it's like an individual ender chest that you can use, and these are going to be very useful for storage and transferring items around. So combining that with the llamas, you could really just pick up your whole base and move it across a map if you find a nice woodland mansion you want to move into. So once you have your Shulker box, you can dye it any color that you want with any of the dyes, and that's formless as well. So you can see I have a green one here. This one is technically a light gray, but it's labeled silver Shulker box, which I find kind of weird. I think they're going to change that, I'm pretty sure. And they do have some interesting features. So if you're standing on one, normally you can't jump over a fence, obviously. It's a 1.5 blocks, but if you fully open your box, then you can jump over because it boosts you up a little bit, and you can use that as an extra way to get over a fence. And then also if you hit one of these with a piston, it will pop off rather than break, really. It pops off in the box form, so that you can, transfer it around. So you could use a piston to pop one of these boxes, drop it in a hopper, transfer it. You can place it with the dispenser, and you can use it with droppers as well. So this is gonna probably redefine the way that people just transfer items around and set up these giant hopper contraptions and stuff like that. So it's gonna be very nice to have these as a storage option. They're basically a backpack because you can break them even with your bare hand. It's fastest to break it with a pick, but if you break it with your bare hand, you can still pick it up and take it with you and just, store a bunch of stuff. You could have this in your base as like a little survival kit, and then when you're ready to go adventuring, you just, quickly break it and take it with you, and you got a portable chest with everything in there that you need. So they are going to be pretty useful for a lot of players. And you did see that the dragon head popped up there, so you can see the first 5 items when you hover over it that are inside there, but anything past that you won't be able to see. Now, going to the end and getting to the end cities to kill these shulkers, because they might not even drop one, it's going to be quite an adventure to pull that off, and you can't take any llamas with you. But the shulkers will now, they don't respawn still, but they are going to be a little bit easier to get back from, because you don't have to go to that same end portal. You can now go to these new portals. They are called return portals, and they're basically little end gateways that spawn out in the end islands, and you can find them, and they'll take you back to the spawn platform that you originally entered the end from, and you can use the dragon portal to get back. So much easier to get out of the end when you're going looking for these shulkers and hunting them. But yeah, they don't respawn, so you might have to travel a lot to get enough of these to really get the amount of shulker boxes that you want. But it's nice that you can color code them, so you can, have green for your leaves and put that on your creeper carpeted llama, so you know exactly what you're, it's going to help with organizing, having all those different varieties. So we're going to fly over to this village, and another thing with the end is now you can make maps in there, and it will actually show the end, so they have their own, special blocks for that. But this village happens to have a new item available that you can trade from this guy over here, the librarian villagers with the white coats. Occasionally their career will be cartographer, and if you trade with them enough, you will unlock ocean exploration maps and woodland exploration maps, and I've got some over here that I can show you guys. So this is a blank map here, then there's the normal, map that's kind of like a black or dark brown ink color. The ocean one is like a light blue, and then the woodland one is kind of a lighter brown or gray. And these are used, they're called treasure maps, because you can use them to find these structures. So the ocean and the woodland ones are the only ones so far. But as you can see with them, being displayed, they don't show all the colors and everything and all of the area mapped out, because it's only a treasure map. It's only an outline of where you need to go. And if you look in the bottom left, there's a little dot showing me that that's the direction that I'm in. So north, if you use F3, you can see that way is north. So I want to head northeast to get to where this is, and it can be tens of thousands of blocks away, especially if that little dot is very tiny like it is here. That means that you are over 1,000 blocks from it at the very least. Once you hit 1,042 or 1,024 blocks away, then it will become a bigger dot, and it'll kind of show you, you're getting close. You'll eventually start mapping this out like you would a normal map, and that's how you can find some structures, including the new Woodland Mansion that we're going to get to in just a second. And you can also resize them. I had a little station down here I wanted to show you guys. If you resize them, unfortunately, it does kind of mess with it a little bit and makes it so that you can see the structure, but you can't see anything else. So it is a little weird. You probably don't want to do that, but it's nice that it kind of works a little bit. So yeah, if you want to find one of the new Woodland Mansions, be prepared to travel pretty far, because they can be hundreds of thousands of blocks apart. They're extremely rare. It took me a while to find a nice one with a good layout. You can also use the locate command if you have access to that, and you can try to look for things like end cities, fortresses, mansions, mine shafts, monuments, strongholds, temples, and villages. Now, desert temples, jungle temples, witch huts, and igloos all fall under temples, but if I was to do locate and try mansion, it would tell me the coordinates right there of the nearest mansion, so it'll be nearest to whoever runs that command, and that's how you find where you need to go. So there we go, and this mansion here is particularly creepy at night and has a lot of monsters in it. It is lit up quite a bit with torches, but a lot of the rooms are not very lit up. You can see that it is huge. This is going to be quite an endeavor to get through. It's not the toughest in terms of, combat, but it's pretty big to explore. It will have 2 large bottom floors. The first and second floor are going to be huge, and then the third floor can vary quite a bit. This one's pretty big, but it'll usually be smaller than the other 2, and that's where the really good stuff typically is, like the hidden rooms and things like that. And this is where the new mobs will spawn in, the new Illagers, and they call this their home. They're outcasts from the village. They're hostile towards players and villagers, and they will not respawn, though, once you kill them. Here's our first one here. This is the Vindicator, and this guy is, as you can see, they look very similar to normal villagers. They have a gray skin and darker clothes, and they actually shaved their unibrow, so maybe that's why they're outcasts. I don't know. I kind of like the looks of them a little better than the normal villagers. I like their coats. But if you do try to fight these guys, I'm going to set a spawn point here so that if I do fight him, I don't have any armor or anything on, but I'll try my best here to fight this guy. He'll run at us with an iron axe very quickly, similar to a skeleton that has a sword. So they're kind of tough to deal with a little bit. And they have 12 hearts, so a bit more than you when you're fighting them, but they'll do 1.5 hearts of damage on easy, 2.5 on normal, and 3.5 with each axe swing on hard. And I've been hanging around here a while because you can see the zombie's got armor. Spider's getting me as well. This is what happens in these mansions, though. They can be very tough because all these monsters will start spawning under the staircase and spawn in all the dark little nooks and crannies and make it pretty difficult when they gang up on you. So be careful. I did go in and play this in survival. If you'd like to see a survival attempt at taking down this mansion, I'll put a link in the description. That was my first experience of the Woodland Mansion. I wanted to try it in survival before we fly around in creative and take a look at everything. So I'll put a link to that in the description. It's not actually that hard of a dungeon. I really want them to buff the amount of mobs that spawn in here because there are, quite a few. But if you look, there's torches on all the little pedestals in the hallway, so you're not going to see that many monsters. And I also think the mini-boss that we're going to meet here is not as strong as he probably should be. So there's a bunch of different rooms. This is a dark oak sapling nursery there. There's a forge over here with some lava and a broken anvil and what look like gravestones. There's this room over here with a pumpkin in it and some ladders and minecart track, very strange looking. There's actually over 70 different structures that go into this thing that are procedurally generated to spawn the layout here using the structure block that was added in 1.9 and 1.10 fleshed out that Jeb used to make this. He's been working on this since 1.10, so you can see that's why this place is so huge and there's so much to it because it has been in the works for a long time. If you do find one of these nice pixel art little 3D sculptures of an Illager, then if you break into it, it does have a hidden lapis lazuli block as a little brain stone or whatever. And I can't tell if that's a torch, a wand, or a scepter, but it's pretty cool looking. He's popping out of the floor, but he's definitely only that to him. He's not a giant structure underneath. There's a room with chest storage. There's nothing in any of these, though. There are loot chests. You can get dungeon loot from this whole area. And we can go around in spectator mode. I don't want to make anyone sick by flying too fast, but you can kind of phase through stuff a little easier. But there are hidden rooms that you can find if you break through certain walls, so be on the lookout for that. Some of the better loot is hidden in rooms that you cannot access unless you break through and find them. There's a prison over here that you can open up, and it's got some beds and a little cauldron. They have a bunch of different designs for prisons. Sometimes there's one cell. I think there's another one here somewhere around the first or second floor that has a ton of different cells that we'll find. And I think we've mostly gone through the first floor. But you can see it'll kind of glitch and do different weird stuff. This is one of the more complete mansions that I have seen. But a lot of the time they'll be kind of messed up. And they are mostly made out of cobblestone and wood. So if you want to just get the loot and you don't really want to fight anything, put some lava down. Put a flint and steel and light it and just burn this whole place down because that's an easy way to get to the loot. But it is a little cheap and you're probably not going to have as much fun doing that unless you're a pyromaniac. No. But yeah, this is pretty cool. It's like a monster fighting arena. It looks like a boxing ring kind of, but sometimes monsters will spawn in there. So it'll look like a fighting. Ooh, we got mending. We got a diamond chest plate, diamond hoe, lots of good stuff. So even though it does have dungeon loot, you can still get good things. There's a library. And a lot of the Vindicators, these are the main grunts, will kind of just spawn in, especially when there's bedrooms and rooms with tables. You'll see them spawn in there. And these types of rooms with tables in the big U-shaped table. The other Illager will often spawn in these. And I think they for some reason, I don't think the Vindicators despawn, but the Evokers seem to despawn because there aren't any around anymore, and there definitely should be. There's the cool kind of winding staircase to the 3rd floor, and one of them, oh, that's a Vindicator, yeah. The Evokers are all missing in action, so I will spawn one in here so that you guys can see what they're all about. But yeah, the Vindicators, 12 hearts, so they're a little tougher to deal with, and they do a decent amount of damage. If you do happen to name one Johnny, then they will go after any mob that's not a Vindicator or an Evoker. And you can see he's going right after his fellow evil villager. Man, the sword actually did a little more there. Poor Johnny, he just he got destroyed. But yeah, so even the Vexes that we'll see here pretty soon, I'm trying to find another Vindicator to name Johnny, even the Vexes, the ghost imps, will not stand a chance really against these guys when they get going. They are pretty good against most mobs. They just, had trouble when another zombie had, or another evil mob had a sword. There he goes, and he's going after the next skeleton. So yeah, they just kind of go crazy. A reference to The Shining with, the Here's Johnny scene, which is also a reference to Johnny Carson. And but yeah, they'll run around and try to attack with their axe anything that they find that's not another Illager. So let's go up to the 3rd floor, and we'll see if we can find any Evokers there. If not, I will summon one in. So the Vindicators do drop emeralds and rarely that iron axe. And usually these bedrooms will have 3 Vindicators. They probably wandered off because I've been in here. There's a couple staring at a flower. So most of the beds will spawn in a Vindicator for each bed. I'm not really sure what's going on with these little, I guess it's closets, but it almost looks like an old-fashioned bathing suit changing station. There's so many different rooms, like I mentioned, 70 different parts. I'm getting a few of the same things popping up. We got 3 of these fighting arenas and a spider creeping. But yeah, there's 70 different parts. You get giant pixel art of cats here. It's a black cat, so it's more evil. But they do have a chicken. It's funny that this is supposed to be more of a spooky haunted house in the roofed forests, but it does have a lot of kind of silly stuff and decorative touches of flowers and flower pots and wool and colorful additions and things like that. So it's not the spookiest place. I think the Illagers are not as bad as they seem like they are. So I'm going to spawn in Evoker. So here's the mob eggs. This is the Vindicator, the Evoker, and the Vex are the 3 new ones that we'll see here. And I also want to get a sheep thing because there's a funny little Easter egg. So the Evoker, this is basically the mini-boss. They don't spawn as often as the Vindicator. They've got green eyes like the normal villagers instead of the blue that the Vindicator has, and they've got kind of nice robes there, as you can see. And if I throw a villager down, the Illagers will go after villagers and players. So this guy is going to start attacking as soon as he notices that villager. Put one down. There we go. So he has summoned the other new mob, the Vex. He has 2 magical spells that he can do with a secret 3rd one. And here is the, ooh, he didn't really aim it the right way. I want to show his other attack. There it goes. He summons these fangs out of the ground. He can shoot them in a line with 16 fang attacks popping out, or in a circle. There we go. That's almost as far as they go. Or he can summon them in a circle to kind of protect himself as like a little barrier with 13 fangs. And each of those fangs deal 3 hearts of damage. They will kind of jut across wherever they need to go to attack and do that damage. The Evoker has 12 hearts, just like the Vindicator as well, of health. And as you can see, he'll raise his arms when he's going to attack. Between spellcasting, if you get too close, he will try to run away from you. But he's really cool. I do like the Evoker's spells. And when he does that, the darker particles means that he is summoning the fangs, but the lighter particles means he's summoning these little guys, Vexes. They're tiny little ghost imps with 7 hearts of health. They will phase through walls, and they can only be summoned by the Evokers. They won't pop up anywhere otherwise. Now, when these guys attack, on easy they do 1.5 hearts, normal is 2 hearts, and hard is 3 hearts. So almost as much damage as the Vindicators. They've got little iron swords, and you'll probably notice that they do a different look when they're about to attack. When they're going to charge, they turn red, and they will zoom in. There goes one, yeah. So they get, like, really scary, and they make little noises that you guys will hear soon when I play all the sounds and everything. But they fly around, and look at all these zombies, gosh. The Vexes will zoom in and try to attack. They can only live for so long, though. Eventually, they will die when they're summoned. If you spawn them in with an egg, though, this little guy will live forever until he dies, and he's just going to sink into the nice carpet there. But yeah, so the Vexes and the Fang attacks make the Evokers pretty tough to deal with, but they don't have that much health, so you can kill them without too much trouble, especially if you're in your creative mode. But they'll also drop emeralds, and always this little guy here, the Totem of Undying. So this is your main loot that you can always count on when you go to a Woodland Mansion. Even if the chests don't have anything good, you can at least get a Totem of Undying or two. So if you put this in your offhand or your main hand, doesn't matter where you're holding it, as long as you're holding it when you die, you will be saved from death, and you will resurrect. You'll have 40 seconds of regeneration 2 and 5 seconds of absorption 2. I'm just going to go into survival here so that you guys can see what happens. I'll let this spider take me down. Here we go. And once we die, we will be resurrected. It has a really cool particle effect and also a nice little animation similar to the Elder Guardians little effect. There it is. So you can see the particles, and it flies out in your face. It functions very similarly to The Legend of Zelda having, the fairy in the bottle. It'll bring you back to life automatically when you die. So you do get those absorption hearts because if you are killed by a creeper, a lot of time you'll fly up in the air and land, and then you would die from fall damage. So Jeb, the lead developer, changed it to where you get a bit of absorption so that you won't die from the fall after you've already died from the creeper explosion. So that's nice. And yeah, they're very useful and kind of rare, so definitely take them with you and make good use of them. They're going to help you a lot from fall damage as well, but they will not save you from the kill command or from falling into the void, because if you resurrect in the void, you're just gonna die again. So unfortunately, can't save you from that. I'd like to see the totems teleport you to like the last solid block that you were on or something to help you out with falling and things like that. So there we go. Before we finish up here, there wasn't the best loot in this place, but there is a little setup I've got up on the roof here, and you can kind of peek in the doors and see. So we got this little thing over the stairs. You can peek in the windows rather and see the chickens and different things, and that's how you can find some of the hidden rooms, by looking in the windows if you get up on the roof. But there are a lot of weird secret rooms with loot, and I spawned in a couple using the structure block up here. Like I mentioned, there's tons of them. There's ones with cave spiders and different traps, but these are some of the more interesting designs, like this kind of X design. That's supposed to be a chest in there. And over here, be careful if you find this one. It's like a weird fake end portal, and if you happen to open up this chest here, then it is trapped, so it's going to blast that TNT and destroy everything. There are some end portals, and then these blocks here are all silverfish. They're monster eggs, so you're gonna have to deal with that. So it's definitely a trap you don't want to deal with. This is the holy grail of secret rooms. If you find this, I haven't found one naturally, but you'll see this kind of obsidian tree arrow here, but if you break through it, there is a diamond block. I think the only naturally spawning location in the game to have a solid diamond block. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please, but yeah, you can get a whole diamond block from the Woodland Mansion, so that is part of why these things are so rare. I think they're a little too rare, though, because, like I mentioned, I had to travel or fly around and teleport hundreds of thousands of blocks at times to find new ones to explore. So they are very spaced apart. They only spawn in the roofed forest, so they're not going to be that common to find. But you can get some good stuff. Like I mentioned, the loot chest, you can get lapis lazuli and diamond blocks that are solid. So there is some useful stuff in there. I just think, kind of like the llamas, the same situation where I think they need to buff it a little bit to make it a bit tougher and maybe a little more prevalent. And then, how the llamas probably need some buffs to be more useful as well. Otherwise, people might not want to travel hundreds of thousands of blocks to go to these places, even though they're pretty fun to explore. And I definitely want to see more dungeons like this because it's huge, and it's way more interesting than pretty much any other dungeon in the game, including, like the Stronghold and some of the ones that you have to do to beat the game normally. So there we go. We're going to fly down here, and speaking of loot, we've got 2 new types of curse enchantments. So we have the Curse of Binding and the Curse of Vanishing. And I'm going to set my my spawn point here as well, because these are particularly devious to deal with. So I'm going to, before I forget too, there is the secret with the Evoker. I didn't show you guys, so I won't forget that. So the Curse of Binding, this is going to bind any item, or especially armor if it has it. If you put it on, it's going to be stuck. So if I go into survival here, you'll see I can still take it off and create it, but I cannot take this off in survival, unfortunately. So it is stuck on until I die. Now, this is a correction from the Minecon video that I did. Jeb originally did say, he had a confusing quote. He said, killing yourself is not an option for taking off the Curse of Binding. And I think what he meant is that most players are not going to want to, you know, jump off a cliff and die to take that off. So he meant it's not an option, as in people aren't going to want to do it. But it is an option if you do want to take that off. So if I had this on, it will remove when I die. The Curse of Vanishing also affects when you die, because anything with that curse on, as long as keep inventory is off, is going to make it so you lose it. So if you watch here, this will fall off when I die, but watch the notch apple and the sword. They will not be here when I die and respawn, and all my inventory's there. But you'll see when I collect it that I'm not going to have certain things. I do have my Curse of Binding chestplate, but look at all this stuff everywhere. Geez, there is no sword or golden apple, unfortunately. So we did not get those, and they're gone. So be careful if you ever find anything with the Curse of Vanishing on it, because you're not going to be able to keep it. Let me grab the Evoker here, now that everything's all jumbled around. But yeah, so two kind of devious curse things that you can find, and they will pop up occasionally in different loot found in structures and things like that naturally, and you can find the books for them as well if you really want them for whatever reason. And one more little secret thing with the Evoker before we move on to the last few features. If there's a little reference to Age of Empires, the priest class in that, if there's a blue, I'll let you guys hear it a little better here. If there's a blue sheep around and the Evoker's not attacking anything, then he will cast a spell, and if you listen close, it's just the exact audio from Age of Empires. I'll play it in the sounds here as well, but he will cast a spell that changes the blue sheep to the red sheep. So a nice little Easter egg in there for anyone who has played that game, but it's very, very strange. The Wololo secret meme thing has been included with the Evokers. So over here, before we get into the sounds and the last few things, thank you guys again for sticking with me. We have the Observer block, which was in Pocket Edition and Windows 10 Edition already. You can craft it like so. The redstone can be on this side and the quartz on this side, as long as the redstone's together. And when you have one of these, it will detect any update of blocks. So let me grab a dirt block here, and this observer is looking at that, and it did already observe that it changed, but when that grass grows onto that dirt block, it'll also trigger that redstone so that you can see it'll click, and it dispensed this shulker box that I had here to show you guys that you can dispense it. And there we go. So yeah, any updates will tip this off. So like things growing, you can use them in your farm, stuff like that. Normal buds or block update detectors still work in the game, and it's a little different working in this version than Pocket Edition Windows 10, because redstone works a bit different in the Java edition. So let's finish up with a couple bugs that I want to mention that were fixed, and the sounds. We got a bunch of new sounds, and here we go. I'm going to go through all of them, and you guys can see. So we have the ambient llama sounds. You can hear, rather. So these are the sounds the llamas will make when they're just hanging out. Occasionally they hawk a loogie. This is their stepping sound. They also have their eating sound, which we heard earlier. There's the angry llama sound, when they don't want to eat anymore, or they're mad at you, obviously. There's the spitting sound. There's when you equip them with the carpet, or the swag, as the developers have been calling it. It just kind of sounds like carpet. There's the hurt sound, and the death sound. There we go. So those are all the llama ones. The zombie villagers actually got their sounds as well. So there's ambient for them. And it is like a mix of the villager and the zombie. And then we have the step. Kind of gross, squishy sound. The cure. These are already in here, but now they're specific to the zombie villager. The converted sound. Here we go. Hurt. Oh, there we go. Death. And that's it. So if you kind of listen close, you can hear the villager and the zombie. So that's pretty much what they did for these guys to make them more unique. Over here, we have the Evoker. Very similar to the villager, but a little more, evil. And then this is when he's preparing an attack. And when he's summoning the Vexes. This is the spell that I told you about, the Wololo. Which is, ripped directly from that other game. And this is when he uses the Fang spell. This is when you hurt the Evoker. And then death. Just spits out, kind of like the llama. Lots of spitting in this update. And then over here we have the Vindicator. This is his ambient sound. A more stern villager there. We have hurt. The death sound. And that's all for this guy. And then the Vex. These little dudes have more sounds than the Vindicator, actually, even though you might not see them as often. So ambient. A little quieter. And then here's the charge sound when they're getting ready to attack. Very creepy. And hurt. And death. So yeah, they're very creepy. This sheep is walking on my sound effects. But anyways, so these are all new sounds for all the new mobs. They already have it because 1.11 is basically ready to go. I hope they do tweak a few of these things because I'd like to see a few of the changes that I talked about, but they're pretty much ready to release this thing. I'm betting we're going to see a pre-release before long, and this is going to be out before October is finished or barely begun for the most part. And a couple of the bugs they did fix. In the first snapshot, if you put coal in a furnace, it crashed the entire game, and villagers weren't running away from the Illagers that were attacking them, stuff like that. Binding wasn't affecting mobs, but now if you put, binding armor on a mob, it'll keep wearing it. And also, you were not able to craft the Shulker boxes or craft them in the other spots on the crafting table. So they did fix a ton of different things as well, but that's most of the ones that most people would know are things that needed to be fixed between the snapshots. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is pretty much it, combined with the other snapshots that we've had thus far for 1.11, and I'm excited to see this update come out. I'd like to see those tweaks like I mentioned, but I do like all the stuff that they've added. I like the new dungeons. I like the llamas. I want to know what you guys think, though, because I'm curious if a lot of you guys are happy with how things are, or you want to see more. Again, the developers are doing these smaller updates to get them out faster, and they held off a little bit because of Minecon to reveal new features. Please leave a like if you did enjoy this and you stuck with me. Thank you so much. If you want to subscribe, of course, we're going to have more Minecraft update videos in the future, and I'll see you guys next time for more. Goodbye.